So hello everybody and welcome to the latest case episode, and it's hello from me, Patrick Twitchett, as implies, and it's
a very, very warm hello from Melvin of M&M Consultancy.
And it's an even warmer hello from our guest this month, which is
Rob Conroy. Hi.
Hello, Rob. So all our folks out there listening in, we've got a very topical subject this month. It's actually titled "It's a Goal," and we're recording this right in the middle of the Euros. In fact, it was the what was it, guys? It was the semi-final last night. So England are through to the final.
Yeah.
The first time in 55 years.
Yeah.
England are through into an international final. So it's all much excitement.
Yeah,
so,
one that I can remember, because I don't remember the last one.
Oh, well, I thought you know.
Yeah, I know what you thought. But you know, we just have to put the record straight. I'm not as old as I look.
Oh, I thought you got into the last one with a senior pass, Melvin.
Oh, listen, I thought you were going to go back to the 1940s, but we haven't been in the final since previous to 1966.
Oh, I thought you could remember the one before as well, Melvin.
No, I can't. I don't do the 1900 Olympics either.
Right, so
get on with it, otherwise I'll knock your hat off.
Indeed, I'm sure you will. Somehow through the cyber waves, you will, I'm sure, achieve that.
No, it's the other way.
So, Rob, you are we'd like our audience, first of all, just to know a little bit about you. So if you could sort of give us a 20 or 30-second burst of who you are and what it is that you do, please.
Okay, fine. I'm Rob Conroy. My background has been in business management in various types of businesses for probably the last 30-something years. For the last 15 years, I retired about 15 years ago, and I've been doing business coaching, business consulting, and I still do it, working a lot with small to medium businesses and helping them achieve the things that they want to do with their business, which feeds in nicely to what they want to do with their life. Feeds in nicely to the whole concept of if you set some goals, you're far more likely to achieve it.
If you could lead us off on your first point, and then I'm sure Melvin and I will jump in with interrogation at various points.
Okay, well, I think my first point starts with the premise that, in my view, you work to live, you don't live to work. And if you've gone to the trouble of setting up your own business, you've taken all the risks in doing that. The lack of security, you haven't got, redundancy money to fall back on if your business goes bust or something like that. You've taken the risk in investing your time and your money into doing something that you believe in, and you need to get some reward from it. And in my view, that should be giving you the freedom to do the things you really want to do with your life.
So how important, Rob, would it be for anyone out there, even for us, to get involved in something that we passionately like to do, or from a monetary point of view is, let's say, very rewarding to do, even if we don't like it?
I think the ideal is a combination of both. If you had to choose, I would say I'd choose for the one that you feel some empathy with and can enjoy doing. Now, for some people, notably entrepreneurs, they can enjoy doing anything because their vision of success is, here is an area of the market that's poorly served or underserved, or it's almost a rip-off market. They'll So if you look at the airlines, if you've got a monopoly on a particular route, you can charge what you like for it. The London-New York route's a good example. Loads of people have set up trying to get in and crack that market. Freddie Laker was probably the original one.
Yeah.
And they know that they can do it a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Gradually you get forced out by the other forces at work. But I think for an entrepreneur is to see that thing, crack that market, make a success of it, and then typically they don't want to sit there and run a business afterwards. They will sell the business and then move on and doing it all over again in a totally different market.
Mm.
Not many of us are built that way. So
No.
I would err on the side of doing something that you personally enjoy and you're comfortable with, but be sure that you can make some money out of it.
Mm. I mean, would you say that you have one or two or three or a handful of people that you might make reference to as good example of that? I don't know. I mean, our Freddie Laker, unfortunately, despite his success, he failed. But are there entrepreneurs today that you would say to people out there, these are great examples?
Yeah, I think most people who are running companies in big tech, Jeff Bezos, the guy who does Virgin Media, I can't think of his bloody name now.
Oh, Richard Branson.
Richard Branson. Well,
yeah,
he's a terrific guy.
He started something, recognises that he's a great public face for the Virgin businesses, recognises that he's no good at running them and doesn't want to try. So let's get the right people in to do it. You know, they're very successful entrepreneurs. They had a vision, and the vision is where it all starts. And for me, the vision is, what do you want your life to look like? And we'll come on to that probably a bit later on.
Yeah.
Because everything else drops out as a subset of that. If you don't have a vision in the first place, then you're probably not going to be successful at setting the goals and doing it, because what are you working towards?
Sure.
Yeah, very true, Rob. And I think, you know, it is right. We do work to live. There are people that live to work, and when you take the work away, then there's nothing left in
Absolutely.
that sense, isn't there?
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. And I think if you can have that passion and joy in what you're doing, you're not really working, are you? Because you're enjoying it so much, you can almost feel guilty in calling it work. And I think that's an ideal place to be, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so tell us more then, Rob. We want to know how we can set the right goals in our lives and get on our intrepid journey.
Okay. Well, I guess, like I say, the first thing is, what's important to you about your life? What is it that you want your life to look like? Or what sort of things do you want to achieve within your life? So you might sit there and say, well, I actually want to live in a great big house, and I want to have a Mercedes-Benz parked in a garage, and I want a swimming pool out the back. Okay, great. When do you want to achieve all this by? You ain't going to do it next week if you're nowhere near now. So let's start with a plan, or maybe let's start with something a little bit less ambitious. There may be things you want to do in your life and say, actually, I'm not particularly bothered in all the material gains and the Mercedes in the garage. What I'd actually like to do is travel more, and I'd like to learn some languages. Okay, which languages would you like to learn? Well, I'd like to learn Mandarin Chinese, for argument's sake. To what extent? So, you know, let's set ourselves some parameters here. I want to be able to converse naturally in, you know, a normal social environment in Mandarin Chinese. Okay, that's a good start. So let's set some measurements against how we're going to do this and by when you're going to do it, and understand what things you need to put in place to do it, and how you're going to recognize when you've succeeded. So you've set, in that case, you set a vision of yourself talking in Mandarin Chinese, and if there's people out there watching who actually do this, well, well done. It's not one I'd try and set for myself, but you've got the vision there. So, you know, start setting some backwards objectives from it now with some milestones in it, and make sure that the goal that you've set and the objectives that you're going to set are SMART. And the SMART acronym stands for they're specific. So you very clearly define what they are. They're measurable. So you've got a way of measuring your progress towards that goal. They're achievable. Don't set yourself something that's totally impossible. They're relevant. So particularly when you're setting goals for your business, why set something unless it's relevant to what you actually want it to do? And then last of all, time-based. So by when do you want to have achieved this, so you can measure it and see whether you're there or not.
Yeah, no, yeah, the good smart breakdown there of goal setting there, Rob. That's really important. And I think one of the key areas on that can be relevance. I think people that are entrepreneurially minded, we can be very easily distracted by some other opportunity that lies around us, and that can be a huge distraction. And you need to focus in anything that you're doing, like you're talking about these goals. And if you lose that focus, you get off track. And I think it's something that a lot of us can be very guilty of when we go, oh, this looks like a great opportunity. If it's not relevant to what we're doing, that's taken us off track, isn't it?
And I think you can liken it to a physical journey. And if you set out and say, I want to go to America, and I want to sail to America, okay? All right, that's a start. Now be specific. Which bit of America do you want to finish up in? California or Miami? Because they're on opposite sides of the bloody coast. So once you've set that goal and you understand where you're looking to get to, and you can define it, how are you going to do it? Have you got a boat? Can you sail? If not, do you need to learn that bit first, or get a boat, or whatever it happens to be? And then once you set yourself out, you're on that course. Don't get diverted off it, because if you do, you won't finish up where you were setting out to go.
I mean, historically, Rob, I've been around 1 or 3 years myself, and had various ups and downs over the years. But we have these conversations, and we talk about our goals, and we talk about the people that surround us, which for the viewers out there, it's a very passionate thing that I've, if you like, exuded, where I like to be surrounded by people who are smarter than myself. So it's a similar kind of context to what Sir Rob's alluded to. But financing, because most of the greatest ideas that have ever come across people's desks very rarely come to fruition. Where do you sit people down? At which point do you sit people down and say, fine, I've got your dream, I've got your ambition, I've got your goals now. Now we've actually set some targets of what we want to put in the garage and what we want in our back garden.
Yeah.
When do you sit people down and talk about, okay, well, now how do we do this from a financial point of view? Where does that come in?
I think it depends on the type of business or the type of goal that you're trying to set. So, for example, Tesco's started off with Jack Cohen selling groceries. In fact, it was mostly tea from a stall in the market. Then it went to a shop. Then it got some more and more, and off it went. And interestingly enough, the company that he started doing it with was named after the guy who owned the company, T.E. Stockwell. And the name Tesco's comes from T.E.S. Stockwell and C.O. from Cohen. And you still see T.E. Stockwell products in Tesco's today. I'm guessing the company has moved on a bit from there, from when he first was dealing with them. but it's still there. So financially, to start it, you didn't need very much. Alan Sugar sold car radio aerials,
Yes.
market still. You know, gradually you make some money, you reinvest it, you buy some more stock, you start diversifying. Eventually, you get big enough that you've got a demonstrably good business. You can write a business plan for its growth, and then you go out looking for some investment.
Mm.
But that bit's a fair ways off. Most businesses that we are likely to be talking to can grow organically for a while yet.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, no, very good indeed. And I think it's a great example. And a lot of these people, they start off, but I think they know where they want to go, don't they, Rob? They've got that bigger vision, haven't they?
Yeah.
I think the people who are successful definitely had the bigger vision. They started off the same way loads of other people started off, but they weren't capable of moving to the next step.
Sure.
They didn't have the drive, they didn't have the knowledge to get to the next step or whatever.
And I mean, from recollection of conversations that you and I have had, Rob, support pyramid, I believe you've mentioned in certain notes that I've obviously been party to. How important is your support pyramid?
Well, really, that's a support to your vision. So it's a support that says at the top of the pyramid, you have a vision. Below that, you have some goals. Below that, you have the objectives that you're going to set and the milestones.
Yeah.
Below that, at the broader base, you have what are the critical success factors and what are key performance indicators for it. And then last of all, at the base, you have the metrics. How am I actually going to get the information to measure it? And that's really the support pyramid for the process.
That's very strong, Patrick. Would you agree?
Yeah, that's right. And I know I've heard a lot of stories about successful people. There's another podcast called How I Built This, and it's a lot of founders of large organisations, and a lot of them say the same thing, Rob, that they have this idea, they're pushing it, and a lot of them, they might be working with their partner or something like this, at home, and they might be bagging stuff up at home and have piles of stuff, and they just get that realization at some point that they can't do this on their own.
Yeah.
They're trying to do this themselves. And like you alluded to earlier as well about Richard Branson, he very quickly realized that, he's great at being the front man and, hey, here I am, and being willing to do zany stuff. But when it comes to operations and running the business, he's absolutely terrible, and recognizes that, and then can find that talent. And I mean, and then again, that's a skill in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, and I also think it's not just that he's terrible. I'm sure he could run a business, but part of the Virgin vision was that you don't let it get too big. As soon as you start to get such a strong brand, and you then want to move into travel, you started with an airline, you want to move into travel, you want to go into banking, and you want to do all these things. It's too big and unwieldy, so you break it up. You break it up into different Virgin companies. You have the strength of the brand, which is the most valuable asset to any of those business areas. But you can take that brand, and it's a very trusted brand, into areas where they're being poorly served. Banking, it's been a cartel almost. I mustn't use that word in same term as banking. They could do what they liked, more or less, and get away. Not a great deal.
Yeah.
And then you've got the challenger banks that have set up, and Virgin Money was probably one of the earliest ones, saying, do you know what? We can actually do a lot more. We can recognise these people as customers, not just numbers on on a checkbook or something. And we can actually give them some of the things that they want and make money at it. So it's, you know, you need some people who are going to be disruptors and to disrupt the market. And, you know, I'm a firm believer in you can change the way markets naturally behave, but it takes a lot of money. If you've got the way a market behaving in a way it's always behaved, to change it takes a lot of money. The bigger companies have done it. You know, Apple's done it. Sony were one of the first people to do it. But you have to spend a lot of money to get there.
Yeah. I mean, Bill Gates entrepreneured into a marketplace and now basically owns it.
Yeah.
I mean, they all own things. I mean, by the time this broadcast goes out, Richard Branson will be one of the first independents to have gone into space.
5, 3, 2, 1, release. Fire.
Welcome to witnesses. You're clear to unstrap. Welcome to space.
To all you kids down there, I was once a child with a dream, looking up to the stars. Now I'm an adult in a spaceship with lots of other wonderful adults looking down to our beautiful, beautiful Earth. To the next generation of dreamers, if we can do this, just imagine what you can do.
These are exciting times because obviously him with Bezos and Mr. Musk, they're all fighting between themselves now to be pioneers in that particular arena. And what Rob is stating here is absolute fact.
Yeah, that's right. And look, I think competition is healthy, and I do hope that Richard Branson can get a good signal for the game when he's in space. So it's a bit disappointing. Tapping the screen in outer space. Why isn't this working?
Yeah, he's jetting off from Mexico.
Oh, right. Yeah, because he won't be able to back up and get a signal off his mobile up there.
No, he's being fueled by tacos and burritos.
But and the space race is a good example because you've got Elon Musk throwing money in, you've got Richard Branson throwing money in, and yeah, you said Jeff Bezos is trying to jump in on the game. And you mentioned it earlier with banking and said that word we shouldn't say. And it wasn't Pablo Escobar, but it was cartel. And you know, it strikes me that there's a lot of money going into this, but, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the guys seem to all be doing their own project.
Yeah.
In space.
Surely, if these guys come together as a collaborative operation, their goal would be achieved much quicker.
I think the funding for all of this is coming from NASA. So NASA made the decision they would not be building any more rockets and sending anyone up to the moon. Instead, they fund a program that's being driven by private enterprise, and arguably, because they've got to make it work commercially, you haven't got a government bottomless pit of money. You've got to justify getting that money from the government against results, etc., etc. It's private enterprise being backed for almost an altruistic need, because we need to be able to get into space.
Yeah, well, the planet's getting a little bit full, and it's struggling to cope.
Yeah.
But that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, we get a bit deep there.
Let's keep on subject.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's kind of your next point, Rob?
Really, just going into the nuts and bolts of how to do it.
So I'm sitting here fearful. I'm a young entrepreneur. I've got a great idea. I've got a great service. I've got a great piece of software that I'd like to get to market. I've come to you, Rob, because basically I'm ready to go, but I've only got £1,000 in the bank at the moment. What, I mean, your process of taking us forward, how simple is that?
Depends on how simple your project is. If your project that you're sitting there for is to get a commercial rocket into space, you've got a very difficult road to hoe, because you're going to need a shed load of money.
Yeah.
Your project is, I've got a little widget that I can stick next to your phone and it lets you do this, and I can make them for £6 each and sell them for £50 each. It's a lot easier. And you're looking for some economies of scale and some setting up some tooling and stuff like that to make them. But that's the big difference. And with all these things, it's looking at a business plan, and the business plan starts with, what's the market for this? Why is anybody going to pay money to have one? Why am I in a position to do it? What's the competition like? What will we have to do to crack the market? If it's something brand new, or is it something that's a Me Too project? I can do it, but I can do it cheaper. I can come in under somebody else's price umbrella, because they're making a fortune out of it, and I know I can make it cheaper, come in at 3/4 of their price and still make a healthy profit. And by the way, you're setting out an investment case. Why should anybody come and put money into this business? And then, of course, a lot of it is you. So what's your track record been? Why would they trust you with that money? And what have you achieved so far that says, I know I can make a success of this? Look, I did this, 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 and this. So it's totally horses for courses, but you've got to have a sound business case.
Yeah, and I mean, well, Melvin's talking about money, and it's that business case, that business plan. I mean, some businesses need huge amounts of investment. They have to go out to venture capitalists and all this sort of thing to pitch for money. And I know we see a bit of a dramatized form in the form of Dragon's Den in the UK. I think it's called Shark Tank in the US. But it is, it is that harsh. People are, they are buying into you as a person, but it's a pure analysis of, do you know your numbers? Do you know where you want to be? And that whole goal and planning is what it's all built around. That's the central core, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's probably not a great example, because I think Dragon's Den is rubbish.
It's a made for TV spectacle to give people. It's the whole idea of it. Whether if it is rubbish, and I mean, I'm not his biggest fan either, but it's to give people an example of the fact of, don't give up on something that you might think is a good idea. The fact that they humiliate people on occasion is not very good, but
no,
that's for television purposes only, as I understand it. However, it does give people a little bit of an insight as to, if they do have some kind of concept, don't leave it in the cupboard. Give it a go.
Yeah, for the people who go on there, you've got a very good platform to show what it is you want to do. And if you look at Dragon's Den, you name me more than 3 products that have been a success, where it's gone on Dragon's Den, Dragons have invested in it, and that's the bit that's made
the only one I can remember is that sauce. There was
reggae sauce.
Yeah.
Roots, reggae sauce. That's
the only one that I can remember.
Okay, there was another chock block connector, electrical connector.
Right.
There was one that nobody invested in, which was the little kid's suitcase that they could sit on and ride along going through airports.
Yeah, that took off, didn't it?
Mum and Dad got a little handle on it.
Pardon the pun, it did take off, didn't it?
But nobody picked that up. Nobody invested in it. And nobody invested in the tangle cone, which is another one that went on there, benefited from the exposure. Somebody invested in it. And you know, it's a joke to me.
Yeah, no, I couldn't disagree with you. You're absolutely right. But from a young entrepreneur just coming out, a young whippersnapper, just come out of uni, or they just come away from school, they've got an idea they had when they were 14 that they're now progressed. I mean, there are plenty of 16, 18-year-old millionaires out there that have had that good fortune and the backing and the support, not just from their parents, but from investment, etc.
Yeah.
You know, those that are looking and still to achieve. Where do you fit, Rob, in their journey?
Probably at the very beginning stage of the business plan, because and I'm not worried about the business plan in terms of the detail and how pretty it looks and what sequence it runs in and all the rest of it. There's a format that works, so that's easy enough to follow. But the real issue is for somebody to sit down there and ask all the difficult questions. Says, okay, you're telling me you're going to sell this many. How do you know that?
Yeah.
I says, are you just guessing that? Have you test marketed this anywhere? Have you done a focus group or something? They're not infallible. Sony took the Walkman cassette to focus groups, and they said, hold on, you're telling me I have this box, I've got to strap it around my waist with a belt and have a wire that comes up here and plugs into things in my ears, and I'm going to walk around the streets like that, listening to music. Get out of here. We're not interested. Sony went ahead anyway and did it, and it worked.
Yeah.
So focus group perfect, but they can give you a pretty good feedback, and maybe you need to address some of the issues that are in there to change it and make it a little bit more attractive.
Yeah. And for these young whippersnappers, Rob, there's something, and a mistake that I've made personally. So, you know, hands up, done it myself. How do you deal with people that will treat their business finances the same as their own, as if the company expenditure were their own to play with, as opposed to it's the businesses and you take wages? You know, the money you make is not yours, it's the businesses. How do you deal with that mental issue, which is quite common amongst young entrepreneurs?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of things. Firstly, that if you are an entrepreneur, you are probably going to want to sell that business at some stage. Keep reinvesting the money, because that you can make a business grow quicker if you keep reinvesting in it.
Yes.
And if you can make it grow quicker, you can stay ahead of the competition. There is very little on God's earth now, but as a business idea, can't be replicated when somebody else looks at it and goes, that's great, I can do that as well. And so you need to move quickly. You need to get economies of scale. You need to build up an unassailable place in the market where that particular product is associated with your brand name. You know, even becomes generic. We still talk about Hoover. You know, everybody's got a Hoover. They're not. They've got a Dyson, they've got a whatever, but we talk about using a Hoover. And, you know, it's something like that becomes the norm for it. But so I think the answer to your question is, don't rape and pillage your own business. Keep reinvesting, making it grow. Start progressively taking the rewards out of it.
Perfect.
Yeah, and Melvin, you alluded to these young whippersnappers, but I think there are the people that might have been in a career for 30 years and they have an idea, and sometimes they sat on the idea for 10 or 15 years. But again, it's there is still opportunity, isn't there? It's never too late to do anything, is it?
Well, look, this is all very true, because obviously I always forget how old I am, because everybody up to the age of about 60 is a young whippersnapper to me.
We'll think of you as a middle-aged whippersnapper.
My big thing, Rob and Patrick, is never stop trying.
Yeah, that's very true. And well, like you said earlier on this Dragon's Den, some people don't get the funding. They don't walk away from there and go, oh, well, I'm going to,
Yeah.
you know.
I mean, you often feel like you want to capitulate and give it all up, but please don't do that. That's my advice, personally.
Yeah, and I think that's part of it, isn't it, Rob? That you know, you're talking about goals, and if you've got those goals and those desires, those passions, everyone's going to face that stage of, you know, that, oh, you know, it's not going my way, it's not working, I've got things wrong. And I suppose it's the goals that drive you on, isn't it?
If they're realistic, yeah. If they're unattainable, the sooner you recognise it, the better. And maybe set your goal a bit lower, and achieve that, which will give you the confidence and presumably some money to move on to the next step.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that refers back to your SMART goals, doesn't it? That the A is achievable or attainable. It's got to be a realistic goal. And sometimes that's like having someone like yourself as a mentor. And I know I often say it, you know, I like brainstorming because I have these wild, zany ideas, and then people rein me back in with something that's a little bit more sensible and practical to achieve. Would that be right?
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things that you can't really put a rule against it. I think if you've got an idea, then sit down and try and translate that idea into a business case, and you know, see where it takes you. If it looks realistic and you think it's achievable and there's a market for it, yeah, go for it. But you know, have somebody to try and not tear your case down, to question your assumptions.
Yeah.
You justify it. Because if you can't justify your own idea and the assumptions that you're using to make it a success, there's a big problem. Because what it's saying is you don't even believe in it.
I mean, we were going back a couple of minutes. We were talking about your own input into the journey of the establishment of this business. Do you come out at some point, or are you there for the duration?
The first part of it, i.e., is there a business there at all? I'm happy to work with anybody to help them do that and evaluate it, and I can take them through the stages that they need to do. If they are then convinced, it depends. Sometimes I have to be the bad guy. So I had somebody who, it was a daughter of somebody that I knew, and her and another woman wanted to set up a business selling children's clothes. Okay, fine. What makes you think you're going to be any good at it? How much money are you going to need to purchase stock? You're going to have to get these things made very cheaply somewhere. And typically that means overseas in a low labour cost market. And then how much do you think you can get them made for? How much are you looking to sell them for? Where are you likely to try and pitch it? As this everyday stuff, or was it? And are you going to sell them online? Yes. Okay. Where are you going to hold all the stock? For every garment that you've got, you need 6 different sizes and 5 different colours to give people some choice. Where are you going to do this? Well, in our flat. Okay. Big flat? Needs to be. Just start kind of thinking it through. And another one that springs to mind, there were 2 guys who came to me and wanted to set up a niche restaurant. I won't embarrass them by going into more detail than that. So, okay, what's your background? Where have you done restaurants before? No. One of them ran a garage, one of them had a recruitment company. So why do you think you can do it? Well, it's good. We've seen them, and we're going to take a franchise. Ah, okay. Tell me about the franchise. How many outlets have they got today? 2. Okay. Have you seen the franchise manual? No, it's not written yet. Okay. So what are you getting from this franchise? Well, we're going to buy all our stock from them. Hold on. You can't even go and buy your own stock. You're going to buy it from them. Yeah. And they're going to put a markup on it, aren't they? Yeah. So straight away you're at a disadvantage. So tell me what you're actually buying. What is it? What you can go out and do this for yourself. You've seen what it is they serve. You're telling me it's great. It's a success. Go and do it. Don't try and make it a franchise. They can't offer you anything. Right? You're paying for absolutely nothing. They went and done it. They didn't even open the doors, but it cost them over 50 grand to equip the place before they opened the doors, and they couldn't get their money back off the people. They'd use it to spend, they'd use their money to fund debts that they already had and pay them off.
Yeah, quite common.
And, you know, if you could see it all coming down the line. So there is a valid reason to have somebody do a good hard test on your business case.
Yeah, yeah.
If somebody has already started it and said, you know, look, I can see there's a business there. I'm doing it now, but I need to get more volume. I need to get more outlets. I need to get some product placement into supermarkets or whatever it happens to be. Yeah, there's a lot of things that me or somebody like me can do for you. But
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the thing is, Rob, that's honest feedback, and you know I often touch on this because people can have very negative, destructive criticism of people and put them off. But actually, there's constructive, positive criticism to bring us back to a realism. So there's optimism, there's pessimism, but there's realism, and it's the realism that's the balance, isn't it? And I think anyone that gets an idea, we do get a little bit overexcited sometimes about it and can run away with ourselves. So we do need that realism to just pull us in with a reality check, don't we?
Well, a good example of that is go and watch the film The Founder.
yeah,
And it talks to you about what the McDonald's brothers did in allowing a third party in and having everything taken from under their feet.
Well, we're getting a debate on that, Melvin, because that was because they should have listened to him more, shouldn't they, and not being stuck in their ways, you know.
Yeah, but they didn't, and he took advantage of that.
yeah.
Well, yeah, he was a bit of a naughty boy in the end, but he was pushed into that place.
As it was, they've never got more than 3 or 4 outlets.
That's right.
Yeah.
But, you know, Ray Kroc was not a particularly nice piece of work, I don't think.
No. But,
but
one of the biggest brands in the world.
To avoid me being guilty of slander.
Well, no, I mean, listen, no one wants to be critical on that point, but the facts are the facts, and there's nothing you can do to change those facts.
No, absolutely.
But people out there need to realise that you do need to protect what effectively are your intellectual property rights, which is another conversation, and so on and so forth. But in these situations, you know, a man like yourself, Rob, for me, is key in most decision-making processes through the journey of establishing a business. Because most of us need to, we have to come to terms with the fact that we're not good enough at that level to make some of those decisions without a little bit of help. In
some instances, I think people are, but they get carried away with the concept.
Yeah.
And so I'll be your demanding best friend, if you like.
Yeah, I look at someone like you as my consciousness.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd sit down and go, okay, so show me what the finances look like for the first. Yeah. How much of this you're going to sell? How much do you need before you can open the doors? What's it going to be spent on? Why?
Yeah.
And you know, that's I can put the hoops there for you to jump through.
Yeah.
and then it's up to you whether what you're doing is sound and capable of going through the hoops or not.
Yeah. Personally, I'd need some larger hoops because I've put on too much weight. Bloody COVID, eh?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Probably need some concrete drainage piping. So have we got near the end of our journey on this discussion now? Do you feel, Rob?
I think the biggest difficulty is the start point. The biggest difficulty is the start of the journey. If you get that bit right and you go through the all-aching task of putting a budget together and putting a business plan together that says, how many are we going to sell? How much do they cost?
Yeah.
You know, how much have I got to put in place for seed capital? How am I going to market this? You know, what's the competition going to do?
Yes.
So, you know, it's doing all the homework and all the hard yards up front. If you can do all that and come out with something that looks like it makes sense, then it's worth opening the door and doing something.
Yeah, that's it. And I think, well, I know we've had a few good sayings along the way here, but if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. Don't you? It's a key learning point for us all, I think, definitely.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
So are we moving into summary stage then, Melvin?
Well, I think it's time to sum up now.
Okay, so have you got any final points, Melvin?
Well, personally, you know, the learning curve with Rob Conroy is the fact that a gentle but learned view is most likely to be vital to the success that you're looking to achieve. And don't be frightened to ask another person who's not so attached what's going on within that journey time. And for me personally, having tried to do certain things myself over the years, I have had much better success by sharing and speaking to professionals that actually know better than I do, because they see things from a different angle, angles that you don't quite acknowledge. And the most important thing that I've got from talking to Rob and being involved in entrepreneuring myself is the fact that you don't know everything.
No, that's some really good points, Melvin. And I think, yeah, that very thing. I mean, people talk about mentors, and we talk about associating. You speak about it often, Melvin, about you know, and look, we are the compound result of the 5 closest people we associate with. So who do we put around us?
Yeah.
Are they people that are not necessarily better than us, but their skill set is complementary to ours? They've got different skills to what we've got, and where we lack, they've got more of them. And it's having that wisdom. And you know, I've had to sit down with you, haven't I, Rob? And we've talked through things. And you know, you've got that analytical approach, and you just need people around you that that can be honest. And I think that's a real deep relationship when you can be honest with each other, isn't it, Rob?
And you have to be, and you know, from my point of view, I have to do it sensitively and gently. This is your baby, and everybody believes their baby is the most beautiful thing in the world. No matter how happy they are, they all believe it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And, you know, my role is to get you to justify that and just pull the rose-coloured lenses out of the glasses and make you look at it in the cold light of day. And if it still stands up, great. But if it doesn't, it's better that you find out now rather than a few $100,000 down the line.
Yeah, absolutely. No, very true. And I think very well summed up there, guys. And I think our summarisation is now summarised, isn't it, Melvin?
I think we've done enough summation. I think where we need to be headed now is to obviously what we're looking to give to our viewing community, whether they're just listening or whether they're actually looking at us on the wonderful video.
Indeed, and we are going to be holding a workshop in November, are we not?
Rob?
Yep.
You're going to be taking us for a workshop in November. Just tell us a little bit about that. That's going to be the second Friday in November, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we're going to cover all the things we've talked about here today. So how to iterate your vision for whatever it is you want to apply your vision to, whether it's lifestyle, whether it's just a change in something particular, whether it is a concept or a product that you want to get out and start a business with, then to back off from that and go backwards down that pyramid and set down what goals you need to achieve to do that, and how long that's going to take, put some realistic time frames against it all, and some measurements in place that you can measure whether you are on track for it, or whether you're hitting some kind of problem, or whether you've been over optimistic in terms of your time setting. So it's I was going to say a moving feast. It's not. It's a living, breathing, flexible thing that you need to keep checking on and making sure that you are still going in the right direction. And is there a time to call it a this is never going to happen? Or do you need some help to make it happen? Or do you just need to double down and work a bit harder to make it happen?
Yeah,
and hopefully you'll feed us some information on that day where it's appropriate to involve someone like yourself.
Yeah. There's a few
that'd be good.
different stages for that.
Yeah.
And if we could come away with some goals and objectives in November, then perhaps when we meet again in our next workshop in December, it'd be good for just to catch up with some of the people from November and just see what changes or differences or things they might have implemented in that month period. So that'd be interesting for sure.
Yes.
All good stuff. So thanks very much for that, Rob. It's been great to have you on with us again. I think we need to move on and finish now, or Melvin normally tells me off for going on too long. So
I've got news for you. You're going to be edited.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, this is probably the only bit that you're going to see or hear of me on the broadcast. Melvin will have everything else cut out, and it'll probably only be 10 minutes long then. So we'd like to thank you once again for joining us, Rob. So I think all we need to say now is it's a goodbye from me.
And it's a swift goodbye from him.
And it's also a goodbye from our guest.
Goodbye.
Thanks a lot. Goodbye, everyone.